Welcome to the Elliott Confidential Podcast. My name is Christopher Elliott, and I'm here with my sons, Aaron Elliott and Aiden Elliott. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Doing good.
Awesome. And today we are actually in Japan.
Yes, we are near Okayama, but not really. We're on the coast.
Yes. Yeah. We boarded the Lindblad Resolution, or the National Geographic Resolution. It's the same company. Yesterday near Okinawa, and sailed down here, and we're now in a part of Japan that not a lot of tourists get to.
Yes, and we're on a boat, and we're in the middle of going, from place to place. In Japanese, that's unkochu desu.
And we should say, Aiden, you have been studying Japanese, or you have studied Japanese,
yes,
because you're fascinated by Japanese culture. You used to watch a lot of anime. And you don't have a samurai sword collection, but every now and then when we're together, I'll hear you say something in Japanese. And I swear, since I don't speak any Japanese, that you're saying something derogatory about me or people around.
Yeah. There's a couple of derogatory terms.
I don't know, but one day I'll
Yeah.
study Japanese and I'll figure it out.
Though, actually, I'll say this. There aren't really many terms in and of themselves that are meant to be derogatory. There's just different levels of politeness, and you can decide to be more or less polite to people.
We started talking about Japan just now, but we also had this little bit of time when we were still in Thailand, and we haven't talked about that yet. And we ended up staying at what is considered to be the most luxury resort in all of Thailand. You want to fill us in on that?
Oh,
the Mandarin
yeah.
Oriental, they treated us like family there.
That was an incredible experience, the Mandarin Oriental.
It was almost as if we spent an extra day there, because our flight left at midnight, and they said, well, we're very heavily booked, and usually your room is in high demand, but we've been able to move some things around, so your checkout is not at 10, it's at 6 p.m.
Yeah, we stayed in that room for a long time. Mandarin Oriental was an absolutely incredible experience. You know, they say that you save the best for last, and this was a really incredible thing. And this was like the original Oriental Hotel, then renamed the Mandarin Oriental. We had a chance to tour the old building, which has been restored. They have since added 2 new buildings. It's the only property I know that is on 2 different sides of a river.
Yeah.
They have the spa and this restaurant where they do an authentic kind of Thai cultural heritage show and dinner.
Yeah.
And then they have the spa on one side of the river, and then on the other side of the river, they have the hotel.
Yeah. This particular hotel, the Mandarin Oriental there in Bangkok, had probably the most number of restaurants as out of any hotel in Bangkok. It had something like 3 restaurants on the other side of the river. They had a direct transfer also to Icon Siam, which surprisingly,
It's a big shopping center across the
of course,
we
we went there once, but I think in the second time we enjoyed it more because we weren't looking for food.
Yeah, and towards the end of our stay, we finally could see them.
Yes.
Yeah, they have the most Michelin-starred restaurants I've ever seen at a hotel. They have 2 Michelin-starred restaurants, which is really remarkable. And the food was incredible. The food was really, really good.
It's also an historical hotel, so a lot of famous writers were there, like in the beginning of the last century. And this was back when Thailand was still called Siam.
Yeah, Joseph Conrad stayed there. What would you say was the highlight of our visit to the Mandarin Oriental?
Wow, well, the Mandarin Oriental, I have to say, it has the best sense of style out of any hotel that we've stayed in. And this has been a long thread, so we've seen lots of luxury hotels in Bangkok.
Yeah, I think tea was amazing there.
Oh,
they
had the best tea, is the
Yeah.
TWG tea.
Yeah, and also the show that they did at dinner.
Oh, yeah.
The traditional Taiwan Thai. I'm getting Thai and Taiwan mixed up.
Yeah, they had
the traditional
like this,
Thai show.
like a cultural show.
Salarim Nam.
They were really good, yeah.
Yeah, that was really interesting. So you have, these fine dining experiences. You have the cultural show. You also have the hotel has one of the best hotel food in Bangkok, from my experience at least.
So here's something that I noticed about the Mandarin Oriental and staying at some other luxury hotels that I was covering, is that they did the whole service thing without making you feel awkward at the Mandarin Oriental. I found that,
Oh, yeah.
they were just they knew who you were, they took good care of you without making you feel they weren't being stuffy or pretentious.
Yeah, that's there's a balance, and I think we talked about this in previous podcasts before. But there's two ends of it. One is they make you feel like you're not supposed to be there. That's sort of the luxury brand approach. Like if you go inside of a Louis Vuitton, apparently. Now we haven't been inside of a Louis Vuitton in a long time.
Not in a while, yeah.
Last time we were in a Louis Vuitton was in Orlando,
Yes.
and we were there to find the most expensive thing, which I was young enough to get away with that back then. But they make you feel like you're not supposed to be there to make you buy things. I feel like that has happened in some hotels, and then there's others where they sort of grovel at your feet, and it's very awkward.
Yeah.
There's a balance. And I would say Anantara and Mandarin Oriental have found that balance where they seem to be very happy with what they're doing. They say they're like the best at what they're doing, and they also treat you very well.
We should skip to the Anantara. I don't think really talked that much about the elephant camp that we went to up in the Golden Triangle, but we went from Chiang Rai. I'm sorry. We went from Chiang Mai to Chiang Rai. I'm getting my Mai's and Rai's mixed up. And then we went from there, it's a 1-hour drive from Chiang Rai up to the elephant camp right on the Golden Triangle. Golden Triangle is the border between Thailand, Laos, and Myanmar. We could not get into Myanmar, and Laos was closed too because we didn't have the right paperwork. But we could literally walk over there. We could wade over there from the river. But there we were in this place. They call it the elephant camp. Why is it the elephant camp?
Oh, it's because they have the elephants stuck there.
Stuck,
It's
yes.
actually an elephant conservatory.
Yes.
And they do.
They teach them how to play instruments.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, right.
It's the elephant conservatory.
They play the trumpet.
There you
Yeah,
go.
right.
No, actually, what they do is they rescue elephants and then they rehabilitate them and then they use them for tourism purposes.
Yeah.
Rehab
They
for
play in a
elephants
band
is
for
like-
all the tourists.
After they get off the
They
the
get off the
drugs,
drugs, then just for tourism.
well, and it's just the Golden Triangle, so I can
Yeah,
imagine
man.
they're sitting around smoking opium and like,
Yeah.
all right, you elephants, quit it.
The ones that play the saxophones, those are the ones that
Yeah,
have
that's-
problems.
It's always the trombone players you got to
Oh,
watch
yeah.
for. Yeah.
Yeah.
We stayed in a bubble. It's glamping basically, where the elephants are hanging out and eating, and then you have it's like a campsite, but it's a bubble, so it's like an inflated bubble, and you have a room inside there, and you hang out there and you watch the elephants.
Yes, and you get to listen to the elephants shock themselves on the electric fence for fun.
Yes, they do have an electric fence, and the elephants, as far as we could tell, they were playing with the electric fence. at
Yeah,
night.
did you know that if you put people, actual humans, in a room with a button that shocks them when they press it, and you give them nothing else to do in that room, they will eventually start to shock themselves for fun.
It sounds like the voice of experience there.
I was the one that did the experiment
Okay, right.
in my basement.
We never had a basement. That's interesting.
Oh,
That's your
that's
alternate
confusing.
reality.
Pete's
what you think.
basement.
Uncle Pete. Okay. Anyway, what did you guys think of the elephant camp? It was like a really different experience. Not
Yeah.
at all like anything else in Thailand.
I mean, I really thought that they had a cool experience where you just you followed the elephants, and
Yeah.
they trained this. So the mahouts trained the elephants to some pretty cool things. If you don't know, the mahout is like just a
handler.
elephant guardian.
Yeah.
So they got the elephants to do like goodbye. They're pretty well behaved,
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, you can touch them. But that's pretty much it. The elephants are not very interested in humans. They're much more interested in eating
Yes,
things.
they eat. They spend something like 20 hours a day eating.
As
Something
long as they're
ridiculous.
awake, they're eating.
Yeah,
So
right.
in order to get them to stay in order to get them to stay and sleep where the bubbles are, you actually have to give them just loads of food.
Yeah.
So elephants are just sitting there and they're eating food. So yeah.
And they're very loud when they eat too.
They
Oh
are.
yeah, we were standing in front of them and we were like, "Is there an earthquake behind us? Are they walking towards us? Are they trying to crush us?" And then we're like, "Oh no, they're just eating."
Yeah.
Yep. So that was pretty fun.
I thought it was great. Also, noteworthy. The lobby at the elephant camp is one of the most beautiful lobbies that I've seen in Southeast Asia. Truly magnificent. And again, the hospitality, Thai hospitality, is legendary. So if you make it up to that part of the world, definitely check out the elephant camp if you can. I'm not sure if they allow outside visitors. I think I saw some outside visitors coming in just to check out the elephants. So maybe that's something, even if you're not staying there. They also have, just up the road, they have a Four Seasons. So if you have a little bit more of a budget, go stay at the Four Seasons. The cool thing is that you look across the river, the Mekong River, and you see Laos. And then
It's the Ruak.
you look across the Ruak River, which is a tributary, and you see Myanmar. It's like the forbidden country, because you can't really get in there as an American.
Yeah, because they're having a six-way civil war.
Small civil war,
If you were fast on your feet, you could probably run across the river real quick, go in there, take your picture. I went to Myanmar, then come back.
Actually, we looked at a map. We might have actually inadvertently gone into Myanmar because the border goes to one side of the river, and we were on that side of the river. Except I really wouldn't count that as visiting a country, because even though you were like technically in the country, you weren't really in the country. Like, you weren't experiencing a true civil war, authentic civil war. That brings us to this week's question. Have you ever traveled so much and been so confused with maybe an international dateline or time difference that you wake up in the morning and you don't know which country you're in? It's happened to us so many times, but I would like to hear about the country that you didn't know you were in when you woke up in your hotel bed. We did that, I think, I know that I did that in Thailand a couple of times, where I thought I was in Cambodia, but I was actually in Thailand when I woke up in the morning.
So now we're in Japan, and we got in yesterday, early in the morning. It was a grueling flight. It was 5 hours, and it was at the middle of the night. So we basically got no sleep yesterday.
Yeah.
Or the day before.
This is our first flight ever on Thai Airways.
It was actually a pretty good airline.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible. What did you think, Aiden?
It was smooth as silk.
Okay.
That's their tagline.
Yeah, it was smooth as silk. I don't know. I thought that there was never enough room in those economy class seats. And,
it's meant for a different sized person.
Yeah.
Whenever we tried to like lay back even just a little bit, or maybe lean back with our chairs set up, our knees hit the seat in front of us, and there's kind of no way around it other than to have your knee going out into the aisle, and every 5 minutes somebody's passing, and if it's a flight attendant, they're like, "Excuse me, sir, can you put it back in, please?"
Yeah,
please?
You didn't really sleep at all.
No,
and
I had a very hard time.
But today you caught up on some sleep, because you were, I saw you sleeping at like 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I went to bed at 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's good that you can catch up on sleep like that. We are going to spend the next week at sea, basically. We're going to be touring coastal Japan on the Resolution. That's the name of our vessel. And it is a beautiful vessel, but it is like a fish out of water, because this is one of those icebreakers. I think that this is a repositioning cruise for it, if I'm not mistaken. It looks like it belongs in the Arctic, this ship.
But it's warm here.
And it's tropical today, and it will be for the rest of the cruise. But it's kind of strange seeing this ship with an icebreaker front in tropical waters. It's a little bit unusual, but it is a beautiful ship, and I have to say that they do a lot of things very well here. We'll probably get to that in next week's podcast, but they do a lot of things very, very nicely. Lindblad is one of the more upscale tour cruise lines that does tours of places like coastal Japan. So we'll have a lot to report. What do you guys like so far the best about this ship?
That's an interesting question. Well, I would say that I like the fact that that this is really me liking the docks, but I like the fact that the docks are so close to everything. We've just been able to walk into town and enjoy ourselves and get some food at 7-Eleven.
For me, the public areas are the best. They have like these observatories upstairs where you can look out, and they're very clean, and not a lot of passengers. It's like we've been on other cruises where it's overrun with people.
Oh yes, the German tourists, they love those public areas. They will
Yes.
take every last public area, and it's supposed to be quiet. You go there because it's quiet. And no, it's just people talking with each other. It's like,
The
oh my
Germans.
goodness.
I think that might be a result of this being a transitory cruise.
It's you're thinking of repositioning.
a
That's what this is.
repositionary cruise.
Repositioning.
Repositioning, yes.
A
You get-
repositioning cruise.
there you go. I knew you could do it.
I like adding airy to the end of things.
It makes it more
It makes
academic.
it sound like I'm smart.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that it's a repositioning cruise.
Yeah.
Because there's just not as many people here. People want to go to the Antarctic, or they want to go to
Iceland,
or they
Greenland.
want to go to Alaska on
Yeah.
a boat
Alaska.
like this.
I think this boat actually was in Alaska for a while.
Yeah.
And it
So-
just got
Ship,
back
sorry.
from Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you look for icebreaker ships, you go for those areas. Japan, people aren't really looking for that as much. So there's not as many people here, but it's been really nice.
Yeah, they
I
did
like that.
two. Lindblad did two coastal Japan cruises. The first one, which ran about 2 weeks ago, was sold out. This one here is not as sold out. There are still some empty cabins, and I think the reason why is that most of the visitors come from the U.S. and school's starting up in a lot of places, so it's
Oh,
really
that might be the reason too.
yeah. I think that you can't really take the kids anymore,
Well, hey guys, buy your tickets late.
or put them in homeschool
Yeah.
and just start traveling their kids. Hey, that's a great idea.
Or just
We
leave
should
them
do
with
that.
leave them with like a relative.
Just leave them at home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let them fend for themselves.
that's right. Latchkey kids. You're going to be a
Yeah.
great dad someday, Aiden. Just know it.
Yes. Yes.
In our last podcast, our question was, have you ever stayed in a hotel that wasn't a hotel? And the reason that we asked that question was that we were we thought it was an Airbnb rental, and it was, but it was also a hostel
Yeah.
hosted by Mr. Eddie, the legendary Mr. Eddie,
Yeah.
who actually runs a review show. That's his full-time job.
Yeah, with
is-
Ladyboys.
Yep. Very famous review show in Chiang Mai. And I would say that we had, all things considered, a pretty positive experience.
We did not go to the review show though.
But we
That
did
was
not.
Unfortunate.
No, we did not go to the review
Well,
show.
unfortunate for me. I know you didn't want to go.
I was going to ask Mr. Eddie if he would cast you in the show, but I didn't want to embarrass you.
I'd have to grow my hair a little bit longer.
Yeah,
for
you're
that.
getting there. You're getting there. And we had a lot of comments. World Curious says that many years ago, we traveled to England, Scotland, and Amsterdam with our two daughters, who were then 9 and 14, and we spent one night in a family's home that was built as a castle stay near Leeds. It was a wonderful visit, complete with a climb up to the tower from which we could see 4 miles. The pinnacle, however, was being awakened in the middle of the night during a huge rainstorm. As a side gig, the delightful couple raised pheasants. Wow. Eileen says, I've stayed in the usual places, like hotels, castles, hostels, B&Bs, inns, resorts, etc. One time in Ireland, why is this always happening in England or Ireland?
Something's going on in Ireland.
So we were staying at a B&B while visiting our parish priest from New Jersey. I somehow broke this very cheap plastic toilet seat. I embarrassingly apologized profusely to the owner and offered to pay for it. He gave me a look and then said no because I was friends with, quote, the priest, end quote, who was treated like a local celebrity.
Wow. So they like New Jerseyans in Ireland.
The way to avoid breaking a toilet seat is
You from New Jersey?
don't stand on it.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying that because they are signs, literal signs, that you see in the bathrooms here
I say don't stand.
that say don't stand. And I'm going, who's going to stand on a toilet
If
seat?
you've only ever used a squat toilet before, it makes total sense.
Sam says, it wasn't a surprise, but it was a surprise location. It looked great on paper for a month's solo stay in Melbourne. Flat had a nice interior, security building, close to tram parks, and the Melbourne markets. But it turns out I was surrounded on 3 sides by very active brothels, which are legal in Melbourne. Hey, I didn't know they were legal in Melbourne. Wow, I really missed out when we were there.
Dang, why did you tell me when we were there?
Jeez, Sam, you should have let us know.
Yeah.
And a shout out to our friend John, who reached out to us because he lives in Chiang Mai, and we met up with John, and we had a really good time hanging out with him at the Starbucks right by the gate, and he gave us the lowdown on Chiang Mai and what happens there. And
Yep.
I don't think we can reveal everything in this podcast.
We're very ashamed as Americans.
There are some very poorly behaved Americans. It is true.
Very illegally behaved Americans.
Yes.
Yes.
But not John. John is a really good guy, and we're proud to have him as a reader and as a listener of this podcast. Thank you, John, for meeting with us. We really enjoyed seeing you. Christine says, this is, I guess, related to our stay in Chiang Mai. When you were there, did you happen to run across the New Life Center? We did not, but we will try next time. We'll see if we can. This was a ministry that she was involved with, but we didn't. No, we didn't. But we would love to get your comments for this next upcoming podcast. We'll read them on next week's podcast. The question is, have you ever woken up in a hotel room and asked yourself, where am I? Thanks so much for listening to the Elliott Confidential podcast. We are reporting this week and next week from Japan and from coastal Japan, and we can't wait to tell you what we're going to do next. So we'll see you then.
Bye-bye.